Hello, everybody. It's Sports Guy Ron. I'm here with your look at the playoff pictures in the AFC and the NFC and your preview of Week 14 Thursday Night Football, a very important game. So we're going to start with the AFC, the divisions. We have the AFC East. We have New England leading 2 games, 11-2 over Buffalo, 8-4. I have Miami up there at 5-7 only because theoretically, if they win their last 5 games, they can get to 10-7 and be in the wild card mix. I don't know that would be enough, but it's possible. They also they're at the Jets, at Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Tampa Bay, then at New England the last week of the season. If New England's clinched something, they might sit a lot of people. So I think it's theoretically possible that Miami could end up with 10-7, although it's very unlikely. So that's why they're up there. The division, this is a very big game. Cincinnati-Buffalo is an underrated, huge game. And we'll talk about it from Buffalo's standpoint and from Cincinnati's standpoint. For Buffalo's standpoint, we have Cincinnati. If they can win that game and then go into New England and win, that's going to put them at 10-4. And New England would be at 11-3 because New England has a bye this week, and then they host Buffalo. Okay, so then Buffalo would be 1 game back. The next week, they're at Cleveland. That's probably a win. New England's at Baltimore. That's a tougher game for New England. So that's something that they could actually flip-flop and actually tie there. So that's something. I still think New England's the favorite. I think they're quite a bit the favorite still, but I'm just saying it's possible. If you go to the AFC North, you have Baltimore 6-6, you have Pittsburgh 6-6, you have Cincinnati 4-8, 2 games back. The thing with Cincinnati, if they can win at Buffalo, that's someplace they've had a decent amount of they've success with Buffalo. At Buffalo, it's possible that they can win at Buffalo, even with Josh Allen. They got Burrow back. Then they've got Baltimore, Miami, Arizona, Cleveland. They could run the table. If they can win that game against Buffalo, then I think it gets progressively easier. You've got at Buffalo, then you're home for Baltimore. They've already defeated Baltimore once for Burrow's first game back. It's going to be a tough game. Don't get me wrong. It's Baltimore. But I'm just saying they might be favored at home, or it's going to be a few points either way. So that's one. Then at Miami, that's a 50-50 game, but I think they're going to be probably a favorite if they win the next 2 weeks at Miami, or it's another, one of those that they can definitely win, but it's a little easier, let's say, than Baltimore and Buffalo. We can agree on that. Then you have Arizona at home and at Cincinnati, and you have Cleveland at home against Cincinnati. They're getting progressively easier, although I'll caution you, Cleveland does have a decent amount of success against Joe Burrow. They probably should have beat him week 1 in Cleveland, but they didn't. Who knows what Cleveland's situation is going to be by then? I mean, obviously bad. So, I would still highly favor Cincinnati, but I'm just saying it's not 100%. But it gets easier as they go the rest of the way if they can get by this Buffalo game. Now, if they lose to Buffalo, I think they're done 4-9. Even if they win and make it 8-9, I think one of Pittsburgh and Baltimore, even though they have tougher schedules, I still think one of those two will get to 9 wins. I would lean to Baltimore. They're playing better than Pittsburgh. They haven't played yet, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. They have 2 games. The first game next week, and then the last game of the season at Pittsburgh. So keep that in mind. But Baltimore also has at Cincy, home New England, at Green Bay. That is really tough. While Pittsburgh has Miami, at Detroit, and at Cleveland, not nearly as tough. So there's a lot to be decided still in the North. I think I might even pick Cincinnati if they can get by Buffalo. I think I might pick them to actually come back and win that division at 9-8, but we'll see. AFC South, this one's a mess. You have Jacksonville 8-4. They're now on top. Indianapolis has fallen to 8-4. Houston has come up and they're 7-5. The big thing here is Jacksonville and Indianapolis have not played yet. So they have 2 of the last 5 games against each other, home and away. Houston has only a game against Indianapolis in the division left. They're already 4-1. So that's a big key. If they are tied with the other ones, they're going to have a better, more likely to have a better division record, which is the tiebreaker. So you got to look at that from Houston's standpoint. Also, big game this week at Kansas City for Houston. If they can get by that game, they've got Arizona and Vegas after that. They could be, quite honestly, if they can win this game, they could be 10-5 sitting there with games at the Chargers and home for Indianapolis. One more game would for sure get them in at that point. So this is a very big game for them this week. Indianapolis and Jacksonville. I would think Houston is rooting for Indianapolis to win at Jacksonville because Indianapolis, if they win, they'll be 9-4. But then they have 2 very tough games. They have at Seattle. They have homes for San Francisco. They still have home for Jacksonville and then Houston. So that's a tough schedule, although they do have the last 3 at home, it looks like. No, I think that last one is at Houston. So that's a mistake. Okay, there we go. So at Houston last week. So they still have 3 road games at Houston, at Jacksonville, at Seattle, home for San Francisco and Jacksonville. That's really tough for Indy. I just don't know if they can stay in the playoff picture. And that's going to give hope to teams like Kansas City trying to make it as a wild card. So the AFC West, we have Denver leading at 10-2. The Chargers 2 games back at 8-4. Kansas City 4 games back at 6-6. I'm pretty sure that is done for. That the Kansas City is just not going to win the division this year. I still think they have a very good chance to go to the wild card, and I'll explain why in a moment. Denver 10-2. They have a pretty good schedule of games left, kind of tough. At Vegas, that's a nice win. That'll get them to 11. You've got Green Bay, Jacksonville, both at home. So those are 2 tough teams, but at home, they have to still travel to Kansas City. You know, Kansas City's going to be fired up. They're still probably going to need that game. And then you have a home rematch against the Chargers. The Chargers are 4-0 in the division. So they're leading in tiebreakers here. So if they can catch up to Denver. But their schedule is tough. Home for Philly, at Kansas City, at Dallas, home for Houston, at Denver. Very tough. I'm thinking Denver's going to win this division. And, the Chargers need to avoid, with Herbert being banged up again and their offensive line banged up, they're going to have to watch they don't go on a bad streak and fall out of the playoff picture. It could happen. Not likely, but it could happen. Kansas City, big game against Houston. But even if they lose that game, they have the Chargers, and then they have at Tennessee, home for Denver, and at Vegas. So the Tennessee and the Vegas, those are wins. That's 8. They need at least 2 more of the next 3 to have a chance. Denver, the Chargers, and Houston, all 3 of those at home. So that's a big deal. So I still think that they can catch Indianapolis or the Chargers and make it in the playoffs. I think those are the 2 teams that are vulnerable. I think Buffalo's in. I think they're going to be good enough over this stretch with the schedule they've got left that they're going to get to 11 wins and they're going to be safe. The ones that I worry about are Jacksonville to some extent, although their schedule, they've got 2 against Indy and a Denver. But they've got the Jets and the Tennessee. That should be 10, although you can't put anything past Jacksonville. But still, I think they're more likely. So I think the 2 that are vulnerable are the Chargers and the Colts, the most vulnerable. If you look at the wild card standings, you have New England 1st seed, Denver 2nd seed, Jacksonville, 3rd seed, Baltimore, 4th seed as the division leaders right now. You have the Chargers, Colts, and Buffalo, all 8-4, but with varying degrees of conference record, which is is going to be your tiebreaker for wild card. You have Houston 7-5, but they are 6-2, very good in the conference. So they've got 4 more conference games. At Kansas City, at the Chargers are tough. Home for Indy and Vegas. So they have a good chance of sneaking in if they can't get to the division title. Pittsburgh, I think they're out as a wild card. I just don't see it at all. Miami, I don't think they're in it as a wild card really, unless the one scenario that I talked about. I think Kansas City's the one. I think Kansas City and Houston is fighting with Indy and the Chargers based on the schedule. I think the Chargers and Indy are probably 6-7 seeds, more than likely, unless one of them gets hot and goes on a run again, like Indy did in the beginning of the year, and the Chargers were doing pretty well. So we'll see. But that's my prediction on the AFC. I would say I'm going New England, Denver. I think Jacksonville with that schedule is going to get in. I'm picking Baltimore reluctantly. I think Buffalo. I think Houston, Kansas City. I think Kansas City gets in. I think Houston is either Houston or Jacksonville to win the division. It's only, them. I think it's only one team out of the South and whoever wins the division. But we'll see. There's a long way to go. We'll look at it again last couple weeks of the season, see what we think. But that's my take on the AFC. Now let's go over to the NFC. Okay, in the NFC, we have, in the NFC East, we have Philadelphia 8-4, Dallas 6-5-1, a game and a half back. So likely it's not coming down to tiebreakers here. So you have Philadelphia, they're at the Chargers, Vegas, 2 games with Washington and Buffalo. That's a pretty reasonable schedule. Yes, at Buffalo's tough. Yes, the Chargers are tough. Yes, Washington's frisky. Vegas, they're bad. Dallas has at Detroit. They have Minnesota and the Chargers at home. At Washington, at the Giants. Also not very tough. So, one of those 2 teams, I think Philadelphia probably wins the division. I think it's a chance for Dallas. I think the Thursday night game is key for them, very key. They can continue this run that they're on. If they can win at Detroit, you figure they're going to win at Minnesota or against Minnesota at home. They're going to be 8-5-1 and a real threat to punch into the wild cards because it's pretty top heavy here in the NFC. Things are pretty set as far as playoff pictures unless somebody really makes a run, which is possible because there's a lot of games with these teams against each other. But we'll have to see about that. But I think Dallas can get up there, but this is a very important game, the Detroit game on Thursday night. This is a critical game. I don't know if you can say that they're done if they lose, but they're pretty close to it. Detroit's the same way, I think. I think they're pretty close to done. They're not totally, but they might be, and we'll go over that when we go to the division records, or the wild card, the conference records. That'll show you there. But I'm thinking probably just Philly, but we'll see about Dallas. The NFC North, we have Chicago 9-3. They are the 1 seed right now. We have Green Bay 8-3-1. We have Detroit 7-5. This is a tough division. We thought it was the best one. I don't know. Maybe the NFC West really is the best one, though. It's turning out to be. Chicago, they've got some tough things coming up, though. They do have 2 games with Green Bay left. So that's definitely going to decide the division, I think. I think Detroit's too far back now. They could make a run here because their schedule's a little favorable. But I'm thinking those 2 games really are going to go a long way to decide this division. I'm thinking Green Bay is going to win the division. I think that they're going to have success against Chicago, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we get some new exciting teams in there, and that'd be exciting. Caleb Williams in his second year, that'd be pretty cool. But they've got Green Bay 2 times, Cleveland sandwiched in there. I mean, Cleveland did beat Green Bay, I'll point that out, but I don't think they're going to win at Chicago. But then Chicago has to go to San Francisco, and then they are home for Detroit. Depending on if Detroit needs that game or not, it could be interesting. I mean, who knows? Maybe Chicago can win both against Green Bay and they don't need that game. But Detroit, they're in trouble, but they do have a little more favorable schedule. They do have Dallas. That's a tough game with the way Dallas is playing. And at the Rams, that's a tough game. You gotta say that's a real tough game. Pittsburgh, at Minnesota, that's a win. Should be anyways. And then they have at Chicago. That's going to be a tough one. But again, we don't know how that the division's going to play out and if Chicago's going to be playing. I would think they will be, but so we'll see. But Green Bay, they've got a tough schedule. You got to say they've got the 2 games against Chicago. They have to go at Denver in between those games. Then you have Baltimore at home. And then they have to go at Minnesota. So at Minnesota helps at the last game of the season, but they got 4 pretty tough games before that. So, there's a lot of reasons. This is completely still up in the air. So a lot of, for the divisions and the 1 seed in that. So we'll see. The NFC South, pretty cut and dry. Tampa Bay 7-5, Carolina 7-6. They're on bye this week. Tampa Bay plays New Orleans at Tampa. You got to figure they're going to be 8-5. So they're going to have a 1-game lead over Carolina. They do play both 2 times. So that's going to probably decide it. More than likely, you have a game. The first game is home for Carolina. That's week 16. Then week 18, last week of the season, Carolina goes to Tampa Bay. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think Carolina is going to have enough to get to a wild card if they don't win the division. And I'm not sure that Tampa is either. I mean, although Tampa does have New Orleans and Atlanta, at Miami, and then at Carolina and home for Carolina. So if they can go 4-1, they can get to 11-6. They might be able to get a wild card. So I think the chances are a little better for Tampa. So the NFC West, this is a crazy division. Rams are 9-3. Seattle's 9-3. San Francisco's 9-4. They have a bye this week. The Rams are at Arizona. Seattle is at Atlanta. You got to figure both of them teams are going to win 10-3. They're both going to have a 1-game lead over San Francisco. But San Francisco then has a game against Tennessee. Seattle's tougher. They have Indianapolis at home. The Rams have Detroit. Those aren't easy games. San Francisco goes to Indy. Seattle has the Rams. So those 2 play. And then the next week we have Atlanta. At Atlanta for the Rams. San Francisco has Chicago, much tougher game. Seattle's at Carolina. So I'm thinking the Rams seem to have a little better schedule of it. Also, the last week of the season, they have Arizona. So I think the Rams looks like, to me, that they're going to win the division. Then you have Seattle and San Francisco. I think they both are going to get wild cards from their schedules. So I think that's 3 teams. And it looks like Chicago and Green Bay are both going to make it. So I think that just leaves the NFC East and the NFC South with 1 team each. So unless Dallas can force its way in or Detroit can force its way in, I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. If you go over to the wild card board, we have Chicago first seed 9-3, the Rams 9-3, they're second. Philadelphia 8-4, Tampa 7-5. Those are the 4 division leaders. Then you've got Seattle at 9-3, Green Bay at 8-3-1, and San Francisco at 9-4. So you've got a 2-game gap all the way down to Detroit at 7-5. And not only that, San Francisco as the 7th seed, they have an 8-2 conference record already. Detroit is 4-4. That's going to be really tough. And Dallas is 3-4-1. That's going to be really tough to overcome San Francisco on that. So I don't think it's hard for me to fathom that they're going to be able to catch San Francisco in that 7 seed. And I don't think that there's going to be enough carnage that the Rams or Seattle fall out either. So I think you're looking at those are the 7 teams in the NFC, unless Carolina can catch Tampa for the division, or Dallas can claw their way back on Philadelphia and win that division. So that's my look at the NFC playoffs. For Thursday night, week 14, we have a very important game. I think the loser's done for pretty much. But we have Dallas 6-5-1. They are at Detroit 7-5. Detroit's favored by 3 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a game time decision. But I'm saying he's doubtful. From all the things I read, maybe he'd have a better chance if it was a Sunday game, but on Thursday, not likely to make it. Terrion Arnold, he went to the IR, the cornerback for Detroit, so that's going to hurt them against Dallas's receivers. Battle of prolific offenses. Detroit can still score a lot of points even without Laporta, and if Amon-Ra St. Brown, they can lean on Gibbs and Montgomery and Jamison Williams and some of their other guys. But Dallas is really clicking on all cylinders right now. Running game, receiving. The 2 receivers, Pickens and Lamb, are awesome. Ferguson has been great at tight end, so we'll see about that. Can the suddenly competent Dallas defense slow down Goff, Gibbs, and company? Well, like I just was saying, they're still a good offense, but the Dallas's defense has been a lot tougher against the run. I've been putting pressure on quarterbacks, can slow the team down. All of me wants to pick Dallas in this game, but I'm going to pick Detroit to win and to cover the 3 points. It's only 3 points. I think they're going to step up and try to save their season here. I'm going to take Detroit minus the 3. That's my look at the playoff picture in Thursday night football game for week 14. Hope if you think about it and you'd like to, give it a like. I'd appreciate it. Think about subscribing to the channel. We got more content coming. And we have a preview coming up probably tomorrow for the rest of the week 14 games. Best week of the season. It's going to be great. Should be a lot of great games. So look forward to that. And I hope you have a good weekend.